That philosophy allowed The Twilight Zone to tackle subjects that few television programs dared to touch during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Long before social commentary became common in entertainment, Sorling was already asking audiences uncomfortable questions. What happens when fear replaces reason? How easily can prejudice spread? Can ordinary people become dangerous under the right circumstances? Those questions made the show timeless. The series also became an unexpected launching pad for future Hollywood legends. Many actors who later became household names appeared on The Twilight Zone early in their careers. Future stars like William Shatner, Robert Redford, Leonard Nimoy, and Ron Howard all stepped into Sorling's mysterious universe before achieving worldwide fame. Each episode challenged actors to portray ordinary people trapped in extraordinary situations. Sometimes they survived, sometimes they didn't, but viewers almost always walked away thinking about the deeper meaning behind the story. That unique combination of suspense and social commentary turned The Twilight Zone into one of television's greatest achievements. However, despite all its success, one episode would eventually cross a line that even Rod Serling never expected. Instead of becoming another classic, it would disappear from television for more than 50 years. Rod Serling's passion for storytelling wasn't simply born from imagination. It was shaped by personal experience. Born on Christmas Day in 1924, Serling grew up in New York during a time when the world was rapidly changing. As a young man, he enlisted in the U.S. Army during World War II and served as a paratrooper in the Pacific. The brutal realities of combat left permanent emotional scars. He witnessed violence, loss, and the darker side of humanity. Those experiences stayed with him long after the war ended. When he eventually became a television writer, those painful memories found their way into nearly every script he created. Although his stories featured ghosts, strange dimensions, and impossible events, they were always rooted in very real emotions. Fear, guilt, prejudice, loss. The monsters in The Twilight Zone were rarely the true villains. More often than not, human beings were. After returning from the war, Serling attended Antioch College, where he met his future wife, Carol. Together, they built a family while he devoted himself almost entirely to writing. His workload became legendary. Friends and colleagues often described him as someone who practically lived at his typewriter. He wrote during the day. He wrote late into the night. Sometimes he worked 7 days a week just to keep up with television production schedules. Despite those exhausting hours, his family remembered him as a warm, funny father who loved practical jokes and never allowed fame to change who he was. To viewers, he appeared serious and mysterious. At home, he was known for making people laugh. It was an unexpected contrast that revealed another side of the man behind television's most mysterious series. Even with Serling's incredible dedication, The Twilight Zone constantly battled financial problems. Producing imaginative television wasn't cheap. Every strange creature, every unusual set, every special effect required money the producers often didn't have. By the fifth season, budgets had become so tight that the production team needed creative solutions just to finish the series. One of the most fascinating decisions involved an award-winning French short film called An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Rather than spending thousands of dollars producing another original episode, the producers purchased the television rights to the already completed film. It turned out to be one of the smartest financial decisions they ever made. The movie had already earned international recognition, including an Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Film. After trimming it slightly to fit the television schedule, it aired as an episode of The Twilight Zone. Although it lacked aliens or supernatural creatures, its dreamlike atmosphere perfectly matched the show's haunting style. Many fans still consider it one of the series' greatest achievements. Ironically, one of its most memorable episodes wasn't even originally made for television. Another unforgettable part of The Twilight Zone was its music. Today, nearly everyone recognizes those haunting opening notes. Just a few seconds of that theme instantly transport audiences into another dimension. Surprisingly, however, that famous melody almost never existed. The earliest episodes use completely different music composed by Bernard Herrmann, the legendary musician who also created scores for Alfred Hitchcock classics like Psycho and Vertigo. Eventually, CBS executives decided they wanted something new. Searching for a less expensive solution, they discovered music written by Romanian composer Marius Constant. He accepted the assignment for only a modest payment, unaware that his composition would become one of the most recognizable television themes ever created. For years, many viewers didn't even know who had written it. Only decades later did Constant finally receive the recognition he deserved. Sometimes history hides remarkable stories behind even the smallest details. As The Twilight Zone continued growing in popularity, another important decision helped shape its identity forever. Who would narrate the episodes? Originally, producers planned to hire a professional voice actor. Several well-known announcers were considered. Even Orson Welles reportedly entered discussions. But nothing seemed quite right. Their voices sounded polished, too formal, too theatrical. Finally, Sorling volunteered to narrate the introductions himself. It proved to be one of television's greatest casting decisions. His calm, confident delivery gave every episode an air of mystery. He didn't sound like someone trying to scare viewers. He sounded like someone quietly inviting them into another reality. His introductions became inseparable from the show itself. Even today, countless horror and science fiction series continue to imitate the style he created. Behind the scenes, Sorling also enjoyed unusual respect from network executives. Other writers often struggled with censorship. Simple words or controversial subjects were frequently removed from scripts before filming. Yet Sorling occasionally received freedoms that few television writers enjoyed. His reputation had become so strong that executives trusted his judgment more than anyone else's. Even so, he still fought constant battles over creative control. Television in the early 1960s remained cautious about discussing race, politics, religion, and war. Those topics made executives nervous. Sorling simply became more creative. Instead of preaching directly, he wrapped difficult conversations inside suspenseful mysteries. Viewers came for the entertainment. Many left thinking deeply about society without even realizing it. That was Sorling's greatest talent. He never lectured his audience. He invited them to discover the message for themselves. However, that approach would eventually produce one story unlike any other. One episode explored wartime hatred in a way that felt painfully realistic. Instead of distant planets or imaginary creatures, it focused on lingering wounds left by World War II. The story centered around two strangers trapped inside a small attic. As their conversation grew more intense, buried anger, old prejudice, and painful memories slowly surfaced. A mysterious samurai sword appeared to fuel the growing tension, forcing both men to confront the darkest parts of themselves. It was one of Rod Serling's boldest attempts to examine racism, guilt, and the emotional damage caused by war. But instead of earning praise, the episode sparked outrage. What happened next shocked everyone involved with The Twilight Zone. Rather than becoming another classic, the episode disappeared from television for over 5 decades. When it first aired during the 5th season of The Twilight Zone in 1964, few people expected it to become the most controversial chapter in the show's entire history. Unlike many of the series' famous episodes, this one didn't rely on aliens, time travel, or bizarre creatures from another dimension. Instead, it explored something far more unsettling: human prejudice. The story unfolds inside the attic of an old American house. There, two strangers find themselves trapped together. One is Fenton, a World War II veteran carrying painful memories from the Pacific battlefield. The other is Arthur Takamori, a young Japanese-American searching for work. At first, their conversation seems ordinary. They exchange polite words, discuss the house, talk about old memories. But hidden beneath the surface is decades of unresolved anger. Everything changes when attention turns to an old samurai sword hanging in the attic. According to the story, the sword seems cursed. Whether it possesses supernatural power or simply awakens buried emotions is left deliberately unclear. As the conversation continues, suspicion slowly replaces politeness. Old accusations begin resurfacing. The wounds of war reopen. Fear becomes hatred. Hatred becomes obsession. Before long, both men are forced to confront painful truths they have spent years trying to bury. Like many classic Twilight Zone stories, the supernatural element isn't the real focus. The true horror lies within the human mind. Rod Serling had always believed television should challenge audiences rather than simply entertain them. Throughout the series, he used science fiction to examine racism, discrimination, fear, and intolerance. But the encounter touched an especially sensitive subject. The episode suggested that Arthur's father may have betrayed America during the attack on Pearl Harbor. For many viewers, particularly Japanese Americans whose families had suffered through wartime internment camps, that implication was deeply offensive. Thousands of loyal American citizens had already endured suspicion, discrimination, and imprisonment simply because of their ancestry. To suggest another act of betrayal, even within a fictional story, reopened painful historical wounds. The criticism arrived almost immediately. Community organizations condemned the episode. Many argued that it reinforced harmful stereotypes rather than challenging them. Others believed the emotional scars of World War II were still too fresh for television to handle responsibly. CBS quickly found itself facing intense backlash. The network made an extraordinary decision. Instead of defending the episode, they quietly removed it. Future reruns excluded it. Television marathons ignored it. Syndication packages left it out entirely. As years turned into decades, new generations of viewers grew up believing The Twilight Zone consisted of every episode except one. It became television's forgotten chapter. Ironically, the controversy transformed the encounter into one of the most sought-after episodes in television history.